Okay, hi. As promised, here are my answers to your questions. Do you ever exhibition in Europe? I have not exhibited in Europe, but perhaps I will at some point. What prompted your foray into retina burning? My favorite color, yellow. Accident. I ran out of my usual yellow and I had a tube of cadmium yellow and I used it. How can I paint kite? How can I paint kite freely? How can I paint more freely? That's a in-depth topic and one I do cover in my workshops. But in general, in a general sense, if you want to paint more freely, you need to use larger paintbrushes, larger tools. The more unpredictability you can get, more chance you're going to be more expressive in the way you paint. You'll be less stifled. You can have the introduction of accidents. There is a process and there are some techniques that can help you paint more freely, but it's too much to explain here. And they relate to that idea of destruction and creation, or chaos and order. If you did mean kite, I've not painted a kite before, but I'm sure they're quite freeing to paint. Do you sell prints? Do you sell prints? No. We don't sell prints. What inspires you to start the artist career? Sun emoji. Yeah, I don't know about inspiration, but I used to be a photographer, and I think painting was a natural evolution or a transition where I felt photography had some limits in terms of its creative expression. And so now it's not so much an inspiration, but more a compulsion, perhaps. I just have to paint. When do you come to Germany? Dissatisfied emoji. I haven't been there for a while. I still live in Berlin. I love Berlin. Berlin's great. Maybe one day. Love the color scheme in your paintings. What color palette do you use? Thank you. I have a very limited palette. So something like a zone palette where there's like the three primaries or something like the three primaries, which is red, blue and yellow. I tend to use black instead of blue. It's a very muted palette. From a little fan here, how's your day going? Smiley, winky, hung out emoji. Hello, little fan. Yeah, day's going fine, thank you. What's up? Not much. How old are you really? Old enough to do most things. Hello, Ryan David Hearn. First of all, I really like your art. Thank you. So, can I do a fan art from one of your paintings? Go for it. Yes, sure. Where do you draw most of your inspiration from? Inspiration is a hard one. Inspiration is like any fleeting emotion, like happiness, comes and goes. So I don't tend to rely on it too much when I'm painting. But in terms of influences, what influences me, in a general sense, cinema, music, literature. Painting your hobby when you were a child, when did it start? I don't think I painted more or less than the average child. I was okay in high school and then I started again recently. I love your painting style. Do you work from reference images? Thank you. I do. I work from sketches I've done from life. I work from imagination, photo references, and then the painting tends to evolve of its own accord. Still waiting for online classes, Ryan. When are they coming? Haha. Soon. So I have finished the first module and the second module, expressive drawing and the expressive painting modules, and I'm just finishing up the final third module. So yeah, very soon. Do you like Chaime Soutine or Chaime Soutine? French, right? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Yeah, I do like his work. Kind of somewhat comical, tongue-in-cheek, expressionist type painting. Kind of cool. Is your workshop also suitable for complete beginners? Yes, it is. We cover the basics of color mixing and basics of proportions and drawing figures. And yeah, so it starts from the fundamentals. Do we even need art? No. I mean, Oscar Wilde said, what did he say? All art is useless. And I agree with the sentiment in that art is not utilitarian, it's not functional, not essential to survival, but yet somehow art is vital to being human. What is the purpose of art? Does art even have a purpose? I don't know. If it did have a purpose, I guess it would be to elevate us above mere existence, above merely existing. So in other words, it speaks to the mind or the soul or the essence or whatever you want to call the innermost self. It disrupts the idea of us being reduced to the level of machine. In other words, it's the ghost in the machine or ghost in the shell. I think good art alludes to ideals. Ideals don't exist in reality, in the real world. They're paradigms or archetypes. So perfection doesn't exist. A utopia doesn't exist. The ideal world or the perfect world. Yet we're aware of these ideals and we strive for and pursue them anyway. If it has any power or any purpose, would be to allude to those ideals or make us aware of those ideals. It's something to strive for beyond mere existence. What is art? Is art everything? Second part first. No, art is not everything. In the same way that a tree is not everything. If everything is a tree, then nothing is a tree. It becomes a tautology. What is art? Ghost in the machine. Whatever speaks to you and elevates you above mere existence. When will your online class dates / videos be released? Soon. I had hoped that would be finished by or before Christmas. That obviously did not happen. I had an exhibition and things have been slightly set back. But yeah, soon. Best and worst thing about working as an artist. Best thing, no boss, no office politics and no schedule. Worst thing, no boss, no office politics and no schedule. Oscar Wilde once said, Oscar Wilde once said, there's nothing that art cannot express. Do you agree? I've not heard that quote before. I'd probably need to read it in context. I mean, Oscar Wilde was known for his tautologies. So he also said, art expresses nothing but itself, which I do kind of agree with. I don't think art is there to be a mere mouthpiece of the artist. I don't think it's there to express one's political, moral, economic, societal opinions. In other words, it's not there as a lecturing platform for the artist. And it should convey or elicit, it should elicit more than just articulation and analysis. And as a painter, I think art should speak where words fail. Otherwise, you'd be a writer. Your art is sublimely classical. Do you also paint to classical music? Thank you. I used to paint classical music, peaceful, restful music. Now, not so much. My playlist is extremely random. I have all types of music on there. But I find now, if I'm in a good state, if things are going well, then classical music is great. Not so much if things aren't going well. Peaceful, relaxing music can actually become more frustrating if things aren't going well. Like I'm painting to more aggressive, driven music now. I guess because I'm painting more aggressively. What questions are you afraid to be asked for? Smiley emoji. That one. I love to learn your technique. Do you offer tutorials or workshops? Yes, I do, and they are being released very soon. Any 3 artists, living or deceased, to dinner, who would you invite and why? I might have to come back to that. I sort of feel if you invite those with some type of myth or legend around their persona, that's going to be somehow disappointing if you actually meet them in life. I'll come back to that question. Work is superb. At what stage do you break the edges? Thank you. I appreciate that. It occurs unintentionally, mostly. So it's the natural ebb and flow of the creative process where things are lost and things are found. There's no one stage per se. Again, it comes back to that chaos and order going between the 2 states. Do you ever get imposter syndrome? If so, how do you overcome it? So imposter syndrome is behavioral health phenomenon described as self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments among high individuals. These individuals cannot internalize their success and subsequently experience pervasive feelings of self-doubt, anxiety, depression, and or apprehension, despite verifiable and objective evidence of their successfulness. And that's from NIH. I don't identify or not felt that, but I'm rarely satisfied with my work, and I'm always striving for something I haven't yet achieved. And I think I attribute my progress to that, where I'm not content. I think being overly content and settled can cause you to stagnate. How do you overcome it? Keep painting. Why are you doing an AMA? Ask me anything. So you can ask me questions like that one. And I thought it'd be easier to create a video response answering some of the more frequent, common questions I get, rather than always replying privately to the same question. How do you get that distressed look in your paintings? I tend to scrape paintings down whilst they're dry before I start the next layer. Just using like a blade from a hardware store. Anything? Laughing emoji. Where/how did you learn to paint? What is the story of your development as an artist? I came late to the art world. My background is spatial sciences. So I came from a very analytical career into the creative space. And I guess you could say self-taught. And so I started around 2018, 2019. And I had my first exhibition at the end of 2019, I think it was, just when COVID hit. What's the best way to learn how to capture correct proportions? The best way to learn to draw proportions is using a proportional divider or a scale divider. I wouldn't rely on drawing grids or tracing or projecting. They're not going to help you learn to see. Do you have a favorite artist or artwork, and if so, why? Yeah, many. I think over time my tastes have changed in terms of artwork and artists. I used to really like the Impressionists. Monet, Manet, Degas. Now I'm probably more drawn to the Expressionists. They're aiming for something deeper and not just the aesthetics or the beauty of a scene. I like the Bay Area figurative painters like Dibbenkorn, Alma Bissoff, Alma B, Paul Warner. I like Dibbenkorn's colour field paintings. Colour field is a genre of painting. What's your opinion on realism and hyperrealism? Oh boy. Realism takes skill and takes technical proficiency for sure. How do you define good realism? I guess you could define it as how well something's copied from reality, how much it looks like a photograph. Is it a craft? Yeah, for sure. Is it art? Not necessarily, not by default. Any craft or skill set is not art. Same way that abstract or any genre of painting is not art by default. Can it be art? Yeah, of course it can. We all start from a place of trying to copy or imitate or get something as close as we can to a reference, whether that's from life or a photo. If you look through the catalogue of many of the great painters, they all started off from a point where they're painting more realistically, if they were a figurative painter. And over the course of their life, many transitioned into painting more abstractly and less realistic. Make of that what you will. Maybe they just got bored of making realistic copies of reality. Why don't you organise more drinks with your old school buddies? Okay, lads. I like the real minimalist look to your work. How do you achieve that? How not to overpaint? I assume you mean the minimal amount of marks or brushstrokes required to render a subject. I mean, that's just practice, or maybe you mean solid passages of like one color. That can be achieved by using a roller. That's similar to color field painting, which is something the abstract painters did in the 1950s, 1960s. Just large swaths of one color. That can create a minimal look. And then obviously using bigger, more indiscriminate tools can help as well. How long did it take you to grow the mo? No idea. I've had it since I was old. Can you tell us about your choice of colors? Do you paint the colors see or in invent. I used to imitate and get as close as I can to the subject I was painting. Now less so. I tend to paint the colours I want to paint, the ones that feel right. So there's a lot of putting paint on and then scraping paint off, trying to get the right colour. Can anyone be an artist? Perhaps not. It's a hard one to answer. I personally am quite cautious and wary about calling myself an artist. It doesn't sit right with me. I'd rather call myself a painter because that's factually true. I don't think it's up to the painter or the sculptor or the writer and so on to call themselves an artist. What inspires you to paint? Again, what influences me? A good book, a good movie, life, compulsion. I'd love to find out more how you work on compositions and decide on backgrounds. Yeah, good question. Compositions, at least for the visual arts, are crucial. I think there is some intuition when it comes to creating compositions and scenes, but there are fundamentals that you can learn in terms of balancing components and making a subject sit well. That I'll probably cover in my third module in the workshop. How did you find your painting style? I'm not sure I have or did find my style. I think style is something we tend to focus on when we're first starting out. I mean, styles change as we change. Our painting changes. You get to a point where you stop thinking about it and you just paint. If you do it enough, do it frequently enough, it's going to have its own signature look, if you will. My suggestion is just to keep painting. And if you're still painting in a few years' time, then you're going to have a look to your work. Mentors, inspiration, schooling, how long do you work at a time, your forever job, art your main source of income, does your artistic voice change, what are the catalysts for that, what are your favorite brands. So I love all of your work, art, emoji. It has an elegant, old school, refreshing soul. Thank you for the kind words. Mentors, I don't think I have or have had mentors. Obviously the painters and artists I do admire throughout history. How long do I paint at a time? 5 to 7 hours on average. Any more than that and I'd start ruining things. I think painting is quite mentally intensive. Leading up to a show, I might paint a bit more than that. I used to paint a lot more, but I found it wasn't very expedient. In other words, it wasn't very productive. My forever job. Who knows? I mean, for now it's alright. Yes, it's my main income. I think voice, again, is similar to style. Changes as we change. I think life itself is the catalyst or the input to one's voice. The experiences we go through. I don't have any favorite brands. I have favorite tools, but not brands. What did you throw over your shoulder in the video? Through a proportional divider. The video. Do you mostly paint from photos, life, models, or imagination? All of the above. All of the above. For painting, mostly photos, drawing from life, and imagination comes into that. The references tend to be the catalyst for the painting and for the subject, but then the painting takes over, as does the imagination, and you paint something completely different in the end. Well, that's the way I've been working. Okay, thank you. Bye.